In the quiet town of Lanciano, Italy, in the heart of the 8th century, something extraordinary unfolded, something that has continued to echo through the centuries, touching the lives and faith of countless believers. This is the story of the Eucharistic Miracle of Lanciano, a miracle that stands as one of the most powerful testimonies to the mystery of the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. To understand this miracle, we must first pause and reflect on the central place the Eucharist holds in the Christian faith. For Catholics and many Christians around the world, the Eucharist is not merely a symbol. It is not just bread and wine shared in memory of the Last Supper. Instead, it is believed to be the true body and blood of Christ, given as nourishment for the soul, a living sacrament of love and redemption. Yet, throughout history, there have always been moments of doubt, moments when even priests, entrusted with this sacred mystery, found their hearts troubled with uncertainty. In Lanciano, it was precisely such a moment of doubt that became the soil in which the miracle took root. A Basilian monk, celebrated for his devotion yet tormented by hidden questions, began to struggle with disbelief. Each time he raised the host during Mass, each time he spoke the sacred words of consecration, his heart whispered doubts. Is Christ truly present here? Is this bread really transformed into his body? Is this wine truly his blood? Or have we deceived ourselves with symbols? It is in the raw honesty of this priest's doubt that we encounter something deeply human. Faith is never a straight line, it is often a path marked by questions, struggles, and wrestling with the unseen. And yet, God, in his wisdom, often chooses such moments of weakness to reveal his greatest strength. One day, as the priest celebrated Mass, something beyond comprehension happened. At the very moment of consecration, when bread and wine are believed to become the body and blood of Christ, the host in his hands visibly transformed into flesh, and the chalice of wine turned into real blood. The miracle was not symbolic. It was not a vision seen only by the priest. It was tangible, visible, undeniable, flesh and blood, resting upon the altar, witnessed by all who were present. Imagine the silence that must have filled that small church. Imagine the faces of the faithful, their eyes widening, their breaths caught in reverent awe. Imagine the priest himself, shaken to the core, realizing that the God he had doubted had answered his questions not with rebuke, but with a miracle of love so overwhelming that it shattered all disbelief. From that moment, the Eucharistic Miracle of Lanciano became not just the answer to one man's doubt, but a gift to the entire Church. Preserved through centuries, examined by science, contemplated by theologians, and venerated by pilgrims, the relics of that day, human heart tissue and coagulated blood, remain as silent witnesses to the truth that faith proclaims: that Christ is indeed present, body and blood, soul and divinity, in the Eucharist. But what is the deeper meaning of this miracle? Why would God choose this time, this place, this priest, to make his presence so visible? The answer is not only historical but profoundly spiritual. The miracle reminds us that God meets us in our doubts, that he does not condemn the heart that struggles, but rather uses that very struggle as an opportunity to reveal his love. It is as if Christ himself whispered to the doubting priest, and through him to all of us, "Do not be afraid. I am here, I am with you, in this bread and this wine, given for your salvation." This is the mystery of the Eucharist, the mystery that Lanciano illuminates. It is not a magic trick, not a spectacle meant to astonish. It is a revelation of love, a reminder that God desires to be close to us, so close that he becomes our food, our drink, our very sustenance. The story of Lanciano is therefore not only about what happened in a small church 12 centuries ago. It is also about us, our doubts, our struggles, our hunger for certainty, and our longing for God's presence in the midst of a world that often feels uncertain and fragile. In every Eucharist, whether or not we see miracles with our eyes, the same reality unfolds. Christ comes to us, silently, humbly, completely. As we begin this reflection on the Eucharistic Miracle of Lanciano, let us open our hearts not only to the story of what happened, but to the deeper invitation behind it. It is an invitation to renew our faith, to confront our doubts honestly, and to allow God to meet us precisely where we are most fragile. For it is in weakness that his strength is revealed, and in doubt that his love shines all the brighter. As centuries passed, the Eucharistic miracle of Lanciano did not fade into legend. Unlike many stories carried by word of mouth, vulnerable to exaggeration or myth, this miracle left behind something tangible, relics that could be seen, touched, and studied. The flesh and blood that had appeared on the altar that day were preserved, carefully guarded in the small church of Saint Legontian, and later transferred to the Church of Saint Francis in Lanciano, where they remain to this day. It is remarkable to think that over 1200 years have gone by. Yet the relics have not decayed in the way one might expect. Instead, they have endured, almost defying time itself, as though sustained by the same divine mystery that brought them into existence. For generations, pilgrims came to see them, to kneel before them, and to let their hearts be strengthened by what their eyes beheld. But in more recent centuries, another kind of examination began, a scientific one. In 1970 and 1971, the Church permitted a thorough scientific study of the relics. Professor Odoardo Linoli, a respected physician and professor of anatomy and pathology, along with his colleague Dr. Ruggero Bertelli, undertook the task. Their findings astonished even those who approached the relics with skepticism. The host that had turned into flesh was identified as real human tissue, specifically myocardial tissue, the muscle of the human heart. The blood was determined to be genuine human blood, of type AB. The same blood type later identified in the Shroud of Turin. Even more striking was the fact that the tissue and blood had not been preserved with any chemicals or modern methods, yet remained intact through the centuries. The heart tissue showed clear structures, myocardium, endocardium, even the vagus nerve, all still visible. The blood, though coagulated into 5 clots of irregular shape, was shown to contain the proteins and minerals of real human blood, undiminished by time. For the scientists, these findings were difficult to explain in purely natural terms. For the faithful, they were a powerful confirmation of what had always been believed, that Christ is truly present in the Eucharist. Not symbolically, but in flesh and blood. The fact that the tissue was identified as heart muscle carries with it a profound symbolism. It is as though God chose to remind us that in the Eucharist, we do not just receive Christ in some abstract way. We receive his very heart, the heart that loved humanity unto death, the heart that beats with divine mercy, the heart that was pierced on the cross for our salvation. But beyond science, there is the lived history of devotion that surrounds the miracle. For centuries, Lanciano has been a place of pilgrimage. Kings, popes, humble peasants, and modern travelers have all come to kneel before the relics, seeking renewal of faith. Each pilgrim carries their own doubts, their own burdens, their own hunger for God. And in the quiet of that sanctuary, before the relics of flesh and blood, many have felt the whisper of Christ in their hearts. This is my body, given for you. This is my blood, poured out for you. The Church has never imposed this miracle as something that must be believed as an article of faith. Catholics are not required to believe in Lanciano the way they are required to believe in the Eucharist itself. Instead, the Church presents the miracle as a sign, a gift freely given to strengthen faith, not to replace it. It is an invitation, not a command. This humility itself reflects something profound. God does not overwhelm us with proof. He gently offers signs, allowing space for freedom, for trust, for love to grow. What can we learn from the way the Church has preserved and presented this miracle? Perhaps the most important lesson is that miracles are never meant to be ends in themselves. They are not spectacles designed to entertain or force belief. They are windows, openings that point beyond themselves to the deeper mystery of God's presence. The flesh and blood in Lanciano are not just objects of curiosity. They are reminders of a living reality that unfolds at every Mass, on every altar, in every corner of the world where bread and wine are consecrated. In this sense, Lanciano is not only about what happened once in the past, it is also about what happens every day, often unseen, often unnoticed. The Eucharist does not always appear as visible flesh and blood. Most of the time, it remains hidden under the humble forms of bread and wine. Yet, Lanciano invites us to see with the eyes of faith what is always true, that Christ is there, waiting, giving himself entirely. And so, the story continues, not only in books or relics, but in the hearts of all who encounter it. Pilgrims who visit Lanciano carry its message back to their homes, their parishes, their families. Priests who struggle with doubt find renewed strength. Lay people who wrestle with the mystery of faith discover a deeper trust. Even those who do not believe, who approach the story with skepticism, cannot help but be struck by the endurance of the relics, the precision of the scientific findings, and the sheer weight of centuries of devotion. Lanciano, therefore, is both history and present reality, science and faith, miracle and invitation. It reminds us that Christianity is not built on ideas alone, but on encounters with Christ, with His love, with His presence, and sometimes, those encounters come clothed in mystery so profound that even science bends its head in wonder. When we pause to consider the scientific findings of Lanciano, that the flesh is human heart tissue, and that the blood is real human blood, there is a powerful symbolism that cannot be ignored. For Christians, the heart has always been more than just an organ. It is the very center of love, the seat of compassion, the symbol of mercy. To say that the Eucharist in Lanciano was revealed as heart tissue is to be reminded that the Eucharist is not an abstract ritual, not a symbolic gesture, but the beating heart of Christ given to us. Imagine this for a moment. Every time we approach the altar at Mass, every time we receive communion, it is not simply bread placed in our hands. It is Christ Himself, offering us His heart, the same heart that was moved with pity when He saw the hungry crowds, the same heart that wept at the tomb of Lazarus, the same heart that forgave those who nailed Him to the cross. In the Eucharist, He continues to love, to give, to pour Himself out, not in theory, but in reality. And what of the blood? The blood in Lanciano was found to be of type AB, the universal recipient, capable of receiving all others. In this detail lies another layer of meaning. Christ's blood is for all humanity. Without exception, His sacrifice is not limited by nation, language, or culture. The cross stands as a bridge, uniting all people, offering salvation to every soul willing to receive it. Blood, in the ancient world, was the sign of life. To give blood was to give life itself. And in the Eucharist, Christ gives us not only His love but His very life, poured out freely, abundantly, eternally. For modern believers, this symbolism speaks into a world that often feels fragmented, divided, and restless. We live in a time where hearts are easily hardened, where divisions run deep, where love is too often reduced to sentiment or transaction. Lanciano reminds us that true love is sacrificial, that to give one's heart is to give without condition, without limit. Christ's heart, revealed in flesh at Lanciano, is a challenge to each of us. Will you let your own heart be transformed? Will you let it beat in rhythm with mine? But the miracle also speaks to doubt. In our modern age, with its emphasis on science, technology, and proof, faith can feel fragile. We are taught to question, to demand evidence, to trust only what can be measured. Yet Lanciano meets us even here. It does not replace faith with certainty, but it offers a sign that faith and reason are not enemies. Science can study, describe, and confirm what is there, but it cannot explain why it is there, nor how it endures. Faith, on the other hand, takes us beyond the how into the who. Who is present in the Eucharist? Who continues to love us through it? Who waits for us in that mystery of bread and wine transformed into body and blood? The answer is Christ. For the distracted soul, for the restless heart, for the skeptic and the weary, Lanciano is a quiet invitation to pause, to consider not only the relics behind glass, but the miracle that happens on altars across the world every single day. To realize that the heart of Christ beats for us now, that His blood flows for us now, that His love is not locked in history but alive in the present moment. This is why so many pilgrims, when they stand before the relics in Lanciano, find themselves moved to tears. It is not simply the sight of flesh and blood. It is the overwhelming awareness that Christ is here, still giving Himself, still pouring out love for every human being. That realization can pierce through the hardest doubt, soften the coldest heart, and awaken the most tired faith. And yet, Lanciano is not meant to be admired from a distance. Its message is not, look at this miracle from long ago. Its message is, come closer. Live this miracle today. Every Eucharist is Lanciano repeated invisibly, quietly, humbly. The miracle is not in a museum, it is on the altar. The gift is not preserved for history alone, it is given to us, here and now. So the question becomes, how do we respond? If Christ gives us his heart, do we give him ours? If he pours out his blood for all, do we offer our lives in return? If he remains truly present in the Eucharist, will we remain truly present when we receive him? These are not easy questions, but they are essential ones. For Lanciano is not only about proof, it is about transformation. To encounter the heart of Christ is to be called to let our own hearts be remade, more compassionate, more merciful, more alive with love. To stand in Lanciano is to realize that faith is not an abstract idea but a lived journey. Pilgrimage itself is a metaphor for the Christian life. Step by step, mile by mile, we draw nearer to God. Those who walk the cobbled streets of Lanciano or enter its ancient church do not simply come to see a relic. They come to encounter a mystery that continues to breathe life into the church. Pilgrims have described a peculiar silence when standing before the Eucharistic relics. It is not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of presence. In that stillness, hearts often awaken to truths long buried: the need to forgive, the desire to repent, the yearning to belong once more to the embrace of Christ. It is as if the very heart of Jesus, preserved in that flesh, whispers, "Return to me, for my love has never left you." This is why Lanciano is not only about the past, it is about conversion in the present. Every Christian, no matter how devout or how distant, is invited to rediscover faith here. The miracle becomes a mirror. It reflects the state of our own hearts. Do we come with doubt? He shows us his reality. Do we come with sorrow? He offers his compassion. Do we come with pride? He humbles us by his self-giving. Do we come with longing? He fills us with his life. But the message extends beyond individuals. The Church itself, often wounded, often struggling, finds in Lanciano a reminder of its true center. The Church is not built on human power, prestige, or programs. It is built on the heart of Christ, beating in the Eucharist. Every Mass, no matter how small, no matter how hidden, is the Church's greatest treasure. Lanciano is a wake-up call for a distracted Church. Return to the Eucharist. Return to the heart. And what of the wider world? For a world often suspicious of religion, often quick to dismiss miracles as superstition, Lanciano stands quietly, without spectacle, without manipulation. It does not shout, it waits. It simply exists as a testimony that there is more to life than what can be explained, more than what can be controlled. It dares to suggest that love, real love, is at the center of all things. Not power, not wealth, not progress, but love, love that gives itself away completely. This is why Lanciano continues to draw not only the devout but also the curious, the skeptical, even the unbelieving, because at the deepest level of the human heart, there is a hunger for something greater, a hunger for truth, for love, for meaning, and in the Eucharist, Christ offers himself as the answer to that hunger. The miracle also reminds us that faith is not meant to be passive. To believe in the Eucharist is not merely to accept a teaching, but to enter into a relationship. It calls us to live differently, to see Christ in the poor, to forgive even when it hurts, to choose compassion over indifference. In receiving the heart of Christ, we are called to become his heart for others. Pilgrimage, then, does not end in Lanciano. The true pilgrimage begins when one leaves that church and returns to daily life. Will the experience of standing before the heart of Christ change the way we love our families, our neighbors, our enemies? Will it soften our judgments, awaken our compassion, strengthen our courage? The miracle waits for our response. Because faith is not only about seeing, it is about living. In this way, Lanciano is both a comfort and a challenge. A comfort because it reassures us that Christ is truly with us, that his love has not faded, that his presence is real. A challenge because it demands that we take that love seriously, that we live as witnesses of it in a world desperately in need of hope. And so, for every pilgrim, every believer, every seeker, Lanciano speaks with a voice both gentle and firm. I am with you. I give you my heart. Will you give me yours? As we draw this reflection to its close, it is worth pausing to ask, why does Lanciano still matter? Why, after more than 1,000 years, do pilgrims continue to journey there, to kneel in silence before a fragment of flesh and drops of blood? The answer is simple yet profound, because love never ages. The heart of Christ revealed in Lanciano is not a relic of the past but a living testimony of love that transcends time. Love that is as real today as it was when Christ walked the dusty roads of Galilee. When he broke bread at the Last Supper. When he carried the cross through the streets of Jerusalem. Love that continues to beat for us in every Eucharist. In a world where so much feels uncertain, where wars divide nations, where technology often isolates rather than unites, where faith is easily dismissed, Lanciano whispers a message of enduring hope. Christ is here. Christ is real. Christ has given himself to you. The miracle is not simply about proof, it is about presence. Not about history alone, but about eternity breaking into our time. This miracle invites us to a response. It is not enough to admire it from afar, or even to be moved in the moment. It calls us to transformation. If Christ gives us his heart, will we not open ours? If he sheds his blood for us, will we not live our lives for him? To believe in Lanciano is to let that belief shape the way we forgive, the way we serve, the way we love. For the weary soul, Lanciano says, take courage. You are not alone. For the doubter, it says, come and see. For faith and reason can walk together. For the sinner, it says, return. For mercy is greater than your failings. For the church, it says, remember your treasure. It is not in power or prestige, but in the humble gift of the Eucharist. And for all humanity, Lanciano stands as a sign that love is stronger than doubt, stronger than fear, stronger even than death. It is the love of a God who does not remain distant but draws near, who does not hold back but gives everything, even his very heart. As pilgrims leave Lanciano, many carry with them not only photographs or souvenirs but something far greater, a renewed sense of faith, a deeper trust in God, a fire of love rekindled within. For the true miracle is not only the flesh and blood displayed in that church. The true miracle is the way Christ continues to change lives through it, hearts softened, sins forgiven, faith awakened. And so, the story of Lanciano is not finished. It continues every time a soul returns to the Eucharist with new eyes. It continues every time a believer kneels and says, my Lord and my God. It continues in every act of love, mercy, and forgiveness inspired by the heart of Christ. Lanciano will remain, quietly, faithfully, a sign for generations to come. But the greater miracle is that Christ himself remains, hidden in the humble forms of bread and wine, waiting for us at every altar, offering his heart anew, whispering, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. And so we end where we began, not with relics on display, not with scientific findings alone, but with the living presence of Christ. The heart of Jesus beats not only in Lanciano but in every Eucharist, in every believer who dares to love as he loved. May we, then, leave this reflection not only informed but transformed. May our own hearts beat in rhythm with his. May we carry his presence into a world that desperately needs healing, hope, and peace. And may we never forget the invitation of Lanciano, to encounter love made flesh, love poured out, love that endures forever.